Hey, Admirals fans, Weston DeWitt back with you here inside Norfolk Scope, getting ready for the 2025-26 season. And we are joined today by the boss, Jeff Carr, general manager and head coach of the Norfolk Admirals. Coach, a lot has happened here over the last few months or so, both personally and professionally for you. So how's life been in the Carr household, and what's been new in your life the last 2 months?
Yeah, it's playing till May, back-to-back years. It's the turnaround's, a little bit quicker. I'm building out some new staff members and coaches and, obviously some renovations and some movement are over here at the Scope in Chilled Ponds area. Team-wise, we had a lot of guys that we went for with reassignments from other organization, getting trades at the end of the year, all those situations. Usually a few of those guys are going to have to get retraded and or you're going to lose guys to Europe, and that's no different from this type of year for us. So we really had to manage that the first couple weeks and see where we're going to be at. And then going into there, we got all of our pieces for qualifying, our roster, final, as we talked about, started our recruiting process, re-recruited our players that we wanted back. I'm very happy with that. And then moved in, summer, right? A little bit of travel, got to go back to our hometown up in Wisconsin. A gal that played youth hockey, she played for the U.S. Women's Olympic team, Janelle Zog-Sergey, and her husband and me. We got a small rink, huge hockey tradition up there that we got to give back to the kids. That was an incredible week. Got to see some family. Renovations, was a handyman, had to do some work on the condo and sell it. I think you helped with one of those days last year, so residual coming your way. Right. And just we're at the point right now where there's not a huge pool of players, and we're at that final roster spots or two, and then it gets to be the juice is flowing again right when September 1st hits, because you're getting back into systems and kind of designated assignments and departments and really what drives us coming here every day, working with the guys.
Lot to dissect there. First place I want to go to is you brought aboard two new assistant coaches, Steve Haddon and CJ De Alamonte. Why those two guys?
Well, we wanted a guy that had some playing experience at either the Central League or the ECHL or higher, that could really grow with some of these players on skill sessions and not just feel what they feel at certain times, because the game's changed so much in 10 years, let alone 5. But, just a voice and a guy that I think can do that. The second is we really wanted to locate our centermen, have worked really hard the last few years at getting better, not only on draws, but understanding the center position. Steve was a true natural center that was good in the dot. That was a second huge that was icing on the cake perk with his hiring. And then he's very motivated and hungry to get into the pro game and get his, second chapter of his career since he's been in junior for so long. So that was easy. Second thing, video with our travel and 3-3s and 10-game run stands in December and all the other craziness of the schedule that everyone deals with. We really wanted a video coach, but a guy that also wanted to be on the bench. We landed a home run with CJ De Alamonte, and we feel the same about Steve Haddon. Obviously, we haven't worked a day together, and our record's 0 right now. We don't have a win or a loss together, so we'll see how that all works out. But I just think the process of what we're going to try to accomplish this year, players first, affiliation, trying to, attack a championship from all different angles, and then having the ex-pro that's been there and done that as a player in the center dot, so important, and then having a guy that's worked with Sid and, Malkin and these guys and Mike Sullivan and an incredible staff up there, paired with what we're trying to do. And as you know, we want ideas. We want to get pushed. We want to not just be status quo. But I guess, one key thing to the assistant coaches is they have a very simple way about them as well. And I think that you've done a great job with the broadcasts on doing that. I think the front office has, our ownership has. I think you know me well enough. At the end of the day, we can build all these stats and projections and analytics, but pretty simple hockey coach, A to B, and 40 to 45 second shifts and try to finish, and that's it. So long-winded answer, but that's all encompassing of what we did.
Moving on to a couple of players that have stood out, public signings as of late. Carson Musser, Josh McDougall were the cornerstones of your leadership group and they were the first two public signings by design because it's important to get that leadership group out there in the public. You and I have talked off record hundreds of times about how leadership is so important and how those two in particular have evolved in their games over the last 3 or 4 years. What is it that you want to see take a step next year for those two to be even better in this upcoming year?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think Carson Musser is an interesting one. First off, Greenville got to name in the trade for that blockbuster trade at the end of the year a player, and they could have chose from Musser and McDougall. They chose Carson Musser's name, and we got that trade rearranged and resorted out to somehow keep him again. That was a long process.
Wow.
Down in Greenville. So we were about to lose our captain, and that was not us willingly, but the next question is, why would you even allow for his name to be on the roster? Because that's how much he's meant to our team, that looking in the mirror, I felt like personally, not to speak for the staff, myself wasn't doing enough at the end of last year going into the trade deadline, and I felt like everyone was pulling on the rope so hard in this organization that I almost felt helpless as a coach, and sometimes trades come and go. And I asked myself, does Carson Musser as RC deserve the best possible team we can put on the ice, even if there's, things that we have to answer to in the offseason? And the answer was yes. So we made him. And then equally, we had to reattack to try to keep him. Worked out a deal with Chad Costello. I think they got a great young player. And Ryan O'Reilly, that's going to be good for them. And we got to keep our captain. And, so I think it's a win-win for us. And, just like we told Muss, I feel like 2 or 3 more years, hopefully if we hang a banner, I think there's no reason his jersey's not in the rafters here if he plays 2-3 more years. So that's Carson Musser. He's coming off surgery. Obviously, he'll be back. And, the doctor said mid-December, so he'll be back probably mid-November, knowing him. And we'll go from there. And then Josh McDougall, Mr. Steady. I feel like his playoff performance in the first round against Troyes in the 23-24 really catapulted a confidence that he didn't really talk about, but showed the whole last 24-25 season. I think he had 36 assists, if I'm not mistaken. You're touching around 40 assists, playing a lot of minutes and not a lot of power play time relative. Pretty impressive numbers for him. He's just Mr. Reliable. I mean, he did give up a breakaway save in round 1, I think 24 seconds in, but it's funny. I'm saying that as a joke because it's about the one I can only remember in two and a half years here. So
yeah, it's like one signing that really seems to have caught a lot of people's eye is Jace Isley, former member of the Adirondack Thunder and South Carolina Stingrays. So we've seen him plenty of times as an opponent. What's he going to bring here to the Admirals?
Well, when you talk about certain players on the air in a very matter-of-fact way, in the past few years, I've taken note to it, and there's no fluff around your calls with him, which tells me there's no fluff in his game. I think just the name Jace Isley and knowing, he's a guy that he hasn't overperformed or underperformed, but he's got size. He fits our mold, obviously. Mark Lewiski's a different animal and a different breed, but he supplies the same up and down the ice sheet. He's not trying to go east-west and be fancy, and I think they play a very similar game when they're just focused on 5-on-5 play. He throws the body around, but I just think there's so much untapped ability, and then you throw Steve down there that can, I think, utilize him on some face-off sets in some certain ways with his shot and his ruggedness to the net. You add CJ every day with the video sessions that he impressed us in the hiring. You pair that with a 22, 23-year-old young guy that's coming off of American League, left off of South Carolina's roster, didn't taste a championship in Adirondack, so he's ripe for wanting more, and it just naturally fit.
Every season, there's always a select group of Admirals that is selected to go up to Manitoba Moose Camp, and Brandon Osmundson is one of those players that will be going up to Manitoba Moose Camp this season in late September and early October. When you signed him or brought him up from Huntsville, did you ever envision that you'd be saying that he would be going up to Manitoba Moose Camp? And can you just touch on how he really has become one of the spark plugs and engines of this team?
Yeah, I don't think you think about that when you're calling a guy up like that at the time, because it was we were a little bit on a depleted roster and it was different times. I think the difference, Weston, is 2 months in, he hadn't tried any risk on anything. He hadn't tried to turn a 2-on-2 into a 3-on-2. He didn't delay at the blue line. He didn't make any plays that he could have made because he wanted to play ultra safe and team first mentality. That allowed me to think that he could be an impact player. And then after the impact player, he was good. And I'll tell you the truth of when I knew Oz's full worth to our team. Shockingly, when we were up in Adirondack in that long trip after Trois Rivières, and we had a couple off days and we were playing 2-on-2 and 3-on-3 with some of the healthy scratches. And I played against him, I think, the following week. And I mean, he's pretty smart, pretty crafty. They're all faster and quicker and can do everything that I can on the ice, but we breathe as coaches every second and we know every part of the game. And it was like he kept outsmarting the guy I was playing with. And he's just, his smarts in those little pockets, it actually made me really step back and realize how smart of a player he was, because it's so easy from a booth or video or, you know, even from the bench to think. But when you're right on the ice level and you see some of those plays, that actually was the turning point where I said, because I already knew all the intangibles, just like you, the courage and all the things that he does. So very happy for him, happy for all of our guys that are going to get a chance. Manitoba does a really good job of treating those guys right and giving them every opportunity to make the team.
Going back to that little competition in Adirondack, that was Connor Fedoruk and Jaden Shields one day. What's that like as a coach to go out there and just play in those competition off days with your players like that?
Well, rarely do. The gym gets so boring, and it's more of a workout, and I think it's good too. You make two stupid plays, and this isn't even 5-on-5 hockey, and you realize that the game's not as easy as it always looks. But no, it's good. I think sometimes the guys get to see a different, lighter side of you, and you know, at the end of those sessions, it comes back to who wants to win and fun and competitive, and you're really in the pocket in the present day of mind. You're not really thinking about the next meeting, the next meal, the next pregame nap, and it's just, I really think that it brings out the most in each guy, and it really re-excites how they played as a kid.
So this is going to be your third year as the head coach of this team, and you've brought them to back-to-back North Division finals, which a lot of people are happy with, but knowing you're not satisfied until the championships and the Raptors here at the Scope. You came into this meeting here about 30 minutes ago, and you've taken a few phone calls since we hit the record button. That just goes to show, for those that don't see it, what you're doing on a day-to-day basis in the summer, trying to make this team better. For those that don't see it and are watching this right now, what have you been doing this summer to ensure that there is going to be a championship banner up there here at the Scope?
Yeah, great question. I appreciate it, Weston. I mean, you said I've brought them. I really appreciate that, but it has been a team thing. I mean, our front office and hockey ops and players and leadership and ownership have already caught up with the vision that I personally had when I came here and was solo, didn't have an assistant coach, nothing. It was you and me on the front of the bus driving through a snowstorm. And ever since then, it's been a team. That's why we're so strong. We're the sum of the whole parts. We're not an individual group. We play a rugged, hard-nosed game. We stick up for each other. We have skill. We have guys that love their role and the puzzle pieces. That's all works. So to answer your question, you know, we've thought about it. I think, 32 teams in the NHL, 29 in our league, whatever the 28 and the 31, whoever's left over that don't win are always going to ask themselves. I go back to the Adirondack series 2 years ago, and to answer your question directly, we got outscored, I believe, 9-4 in the home games in game 3, 4, 5. So we've only scored 4 goals. I think the difference with that, and then this past year, I believe we got outscored 5-2, if I'm not mistaken, in those 3 games. 4-1, 1-0 win, 1-0 loss. So in 2 playoff years at the Scope, when our team is the most ripe for using the home crowd, utilizing not just our solid goaltending and our D-core, but really showcasing our sum of all of our parts offensive talent, I think that has been my biggest learning lesson, and it hasn't came to the forefront until the last 2 weeks. So you look at it, we score 4 goals and 2 goals and back-to-back 3 games and 3 games. So out of 6 playoff games at home, we've scored 6 goals.
Wow.
At the Scope.
Yeah.
That's not enough risk. That's not on the players. That's on me 100% to allow, if we're lucky enough to get back in these first and second round series, and every series and every year is a different. We need more double-digit shots like we did in the Adirondack series at home. That was just, I tip my cap to Isaac Poulter on that one, bottom line. But we're not playing with enough risk in the second period. I think a team that can jump all over you in the second period, use your crowd, you give up a goal, get one back mentality, keep it a high-scoring. Teams rarely score 5 and 6 on the road in the middle frames of series. So that's going to be the main adjustment. And then, the elephant in the room is we have 5 to 10 injuries a year in 7 months, 6 months. We've somehow been the only team to have back-to-back years with 6 injuries in 3 weeks in 2 playoffs. We played 2 players short in Division 6 finals. That's not blaming injuries happen for sure. But somehow we're going to have to find guys that are going to play through things in Game 6s.
It's August right now, so there's a lot of time, as you said, for reflection. How does Jeff Carr get to the bottom of his reflections when he's going, how can I become a better coach? How can I bring in better players? Is there something you do, something you say, someone you surround yourself with? What is it that Jeff Carr does to get to that bottom line?
Well, you're learning a lot every day about who the players are, who's the personnel, who's the leagues, what's the travel schedule, what are other teams doing. But that also gets your mind a little bit away from what are you doing. And I think we're at that point right now where I'm so burnt out on thinking about who other teams have signed, what our road trip looks like, where we're going to do for immigration, all these things, the same things that you're doing with tasks, and getting back into the art of showing up every day and being good every day over and over and over. That's how you turn great. You're not great every day. You're just good. And I'm excited to get back to that with our staff, with CJ, with Steve. And instead of having 300 ideas, sticking to 2 or 3, getting to it trial by error, not too high, not too low, and then getting back to what we do here as a Norfolk Admiral.
Each season that you've been coaching this team, there's always been kind of a go-to or a mantra that we've said behind closed doors that really isn't said out in the public, but more so just for the standpoint of the staff. Do you have something this season that you're cooking up that you're willing to share with the fans here today?
Well, to go back, I think the first thing was we really started it in 22-23 after that rebuild year, and it was rebuild and remove the stain that people had of Norfolk. The next year was windshield time, right? We were only focused on forward. I think that's when we really kind of sprung into action as an organization, as a team. Last year was world-class double down. I think we did that from the start of the year till our affiliation to the trades we made at the trade deadline. This year we have 2 incredible of a coaching staff and a hockey ops staff, and I'm going to leave it up to the staff to decide. I'm not going to have any say in it. You guys have more years here than I do. Our president, Casey's worked from the ground level up. Probably include him on it because I think he's in sync with us. And we're going to make it be a staff decision without me. And if it gets answered in September, August, or in December, I'll be, willing to listen to it and embrace whatever you guys have.